Welcome, dear ones. I'm Bevan Neiman Cortez, and I've been a mentor for intuitive empaths for almost 10 years now. It's been an amazing journey, so fulfilling to see people like yourself become empowered to heal from past trauma, from past conditioning, and to really step into their power. So I am so pleased today to offer you this masterclass on crafting a life that nurtures your sensitivity, right? So we know what it's like when our lifestyle, when our career is draining and depleting us. We're talking about the opposite. How do you move towards a home environment, relationships, a job, a business, whatever that looks like for you, a health journey that actually nurtures your sensitive nervous system? So there's a few key points I'm going to be covering in this session. Number one is why it's so important for highly sensitive people and empaths and intuitives to make conscious choices about our lifestyles and our careers, not just falling into things. And I'm going to share some stories about that. That focusing on your needs is not selfish, it's not self-serving. It is absolutely necessary. And I found that intuitive empaths often self-sacrifice in order for other people to be happy, to be healthy, to have what they need, but then we put our own needs on the back burner. And this is about putting yourself first. And there are multiple aspects of your life that you can reflect on. And you can assess each one of these things to see, okay, is this draining me and depleting me, or is this energizing me? And this is really important to take a really hard look at these different aspects. I'm going to show you a chart which will show you all of the different dimensions of becoming a sensitive lifestyle designer. And I'm going to share some stories from my own journey because I don't ever teach anything that I have not experienced myself. I don't ever recommend something that I have not tried. I just think that would be kind of silly. So I want you to have some concrete examples of what sensitive lifestyle design looks like and how it could be. And of course, your journey is going to be unique. So I'm hoping that my stories are just simply inspiration. If it doesn't match where you are or what you're looking for, that's perfectly fine. You get to decide. There is no template, no blueprint for how to be an empath, how to be a healthy and empowered empath. It's something that each one of us has to develop for ourselves. So let's dive in. I'm really excited to share all this information with you. So where we're going to start is that our modern society, the pace of the world, the structure of that, the expectations that are put upon us, generally by people whose brains and nervous systems are much less sensitive, much less reactive to the environment than us HSPs and empaths. And it's why most things in the world feel too loud, too bright, too fast, and too pressured for sensitive people. And each of us grew up internalizing particular messages from our family of origin, our school that we went to, our peers, the media, the government, all the things, right? And they said to us, you must fit yourself into these existing structures and systems and cultural expectations. Like we need to, graduate from high school. We need to go to college. We need to get a job from 9 to 5 or 9 to, however, could be much longer than that for many jobs. We need to go to college to have this particular major. We have to get married. We must have children by this age, et cetera, et cetera. There are many societal expectations. And depending on where you are in the world, that may look different for you. Of course, there's different cultural expectations. And breaking away from those things is really challenging sometimes because there is so much pressure. So often sensitives and empaths and intuitives try to adapt ourselves to this mainstream culture, often to our detriment. I did that for years, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And because we have these compassionate, loving hearts, and we tend to be the helpers of the world, we're always trying to give, we might sacrifice what we really need, or we don't even speak up about our needs at all, to ensure that everything flows smoothly in our family system, at the workplace, and our friend group, because we don't want to be a bother. We don't want to assert ourselves. We don't want people to be upset with us because we ask for something different than what is expected or what is given. So let me give you an example from my own life. I spent almost a decade working as an account manager for one of the largest corporations in the United States. And I managed $1 million book of accounts. It was enormous pressure, right? There's so much money at stake and so many contracts at stake. From my bosses, from the corporation, I felt so much pressure. And the expectation in this position was to work about 60 to 65 hours a week, not just a 9 to 5. It was like you were on call 24/7. I was the person that clients called when they were upset with the company services. And for an empath, when you're answering the phone and you're dreading that, this person's like angry, they're frustrated, they're going to kind of take that out on you. You feel all their emotions. It really was not a good fit for me. I had to intersect with so many people. I had to go to these giant luncheons. I had all these different crews that I had to get ready in the morning to go out and service these customers' properties because I worked in the landscaping field. But also the pace, the expectations, the pace, it never stopped. It never stopped. And I was expected to spend about 3 hours a day driving through bumper to bumper traffic to get to work, to visit the properties, to talk to clients, to see what my crews were doing. And I had to be in the office at like 6 a.m. And I am a night owl. I do not do well in the morning. I generally don't even get up until about 9 o'clock. So everything about this workplace was unsupportive of me and even damaging to my central nervous system. And yet I kept trying to do it because the money was good, the prestige was good. I thought I could just be normal like everyone else, right? And then I suffered a complete and total physical, mental, and emotional breakdown. And I lost my job because I couldn't keep up the pace. I couldn't work for 6 months. I literally laid on the couch. I was exhausted. I had chronic fatigue. I had pain. I had all kinds of physical symptoms. And this was a huge awakening for me, that something had to change, that I could not continue to fit myself into a system that demanded so much of me. There were other people who could work that job. And yes, it wasn't good for anybody, but their central nervous systems and their way of being is not as sensitive as mine. So it didn't bother them as much. As a matter of fact, some of them actually thrived in that environment, but I did not. And I kept trying to do it. I'm sure this probably resonates with you. You've probably had an experience where you tried to keep up with everyone else whose nervous system does not react to as much of the pressure and the noise and the peopling and all the things, right? So I took that time off. That was the first time in my whole life. I mean, I had been working since I was 12 years old. As soon as I could work, I went out and got a job. And so this was the first time in my whole life when I actually took time off. I allowed myself to rest. I needed to heal. I needed to decompress from that situation. And when I was ready, I began to search for a position with a smaller company, still in the same field, but I wanted to work with a local company where it wasn't this huge corporation. There weren't these sort of like nameless, faceless people sending down imperatives of what I needed to take on that was extra than what I already had. I wanted to start over. I wanted to have something that was calmer, more peaceful. I could actually talk to the owner and the supervisor of the company. So when I took this position, I decided to set really healthy boundaries about the times when I would be available and the times when I would turn my phone off to have personal rest and relaxation. I set very healthy boundaries about the number of hours that I was going to work. And while I continued to pay my bills with this day job, and I loved being a landscape designer, it was really interesting work, I also was launching my coaching business for empaths and HSPs. And in this process of kind of straddling these two worlds, I began to see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I realized that over time, I could reimagine not only the career field that I was in, but that I could use my spiritual gifts to help others make deep transformational impact. rather than just selling things I didn't really care about, right? So I did a lot of that. I just sell, widgets and maintenance contracts and all these things that weren't really like, it wasn't heart-led. I could do it. I was actually pretty good at it, but it wasn't something that mattered to me. And as HSPs and empaths, we need to have meaning in our lives, in our careers, in our relationships, in all aspects of our lifestyle, right? So as I gradually built this business and eventually I was able to turn in my resignation to that company and go full time, I realized that this was an opportunity for me to set my own schedule, to choose the clients that I worked with. Because before, as a account manager, they just assigned me clients, and some of those clients we worked really well, and some of them we had, dissonant energy, and there was a lot of conflict. So now I got to choose my clients, and it took a number of years. This wasn't an immediate thing. Any kind of change or transformation we're trying to do in our life will generally take time, because we need to take it slowly, step by step by step, so we don't get overwhelmed, because that can really happen very easily and quickly to HSPs and empaths. But we also need time to integrate. So we make a small change and then we kind of settle into it and go, okay, here's my new reality. And then we make another small change and another small change. So over time, I was able to have this really amazing career, which you see me doing right now, that was aligned with my sacred purpose. I have a daily schedule that works for me. So I don't even see any of my one-to-one coaching clients until like 11 or 12. So I can sleep in, I can get up, I can do my spiritual work, I can exercise, I can, do an oracle reading. I really have arranged my life so that I have adequate time off. I have adequate downtime. I have time to connect with my husband and family members and friends. And I have time to pursue some of my hobbies. I love to do nature photography. And so that's something I'm really learning about. So, realizing that, sometimes pushing ourselves to this degree is leaving behind all of the spaciousness that we actually need to do. And now I get up every day, and instead of dreading going to work and hauling myself into work at 6 o'clock in the morning, which did not work with my circadian rhythms, I actually get up and I'm excited to be at work. I'm excited to do what I do. I love it. Not every aspect of running a business is a lot of fun, but mostly I just have a really great attitude about this. And it really was this mindset shift for me. And I'm going to say this, not everything about life is mindset. There's some spiritual coaches that talk about that. I'm not one of them. It's mindset. It's the society we live in. It's the structures we live in. It's other people's choices. There's lots of reasons why the world is the way it is. So I don't believe that we just think about everything and we attract everything, and that's why we have the reality we have, that we are co-creating with 8 billion other humans. But mindset is important. It's one component of this. And I had never considered that it was okay for me to put my own needs first, or that I could actually deliberately and consciously craft a lifestyle that was tailored to how I wanted to live and how I wanted to work and how I wanted to relate with people. And this felt really uncomfortable for me at times, and it still does sometimes, right? Because if you've ever intersected with people who are more selfish or further on the spectrum of narcissism, the last thing you want to do is become like that, right? But being self-focused, putting your own needs first, is different than being selfish. Selfishness means that you use other people to get what you want and you don't care what the consequences are to them. Being self-focused means I know that unless I take care of me, make myself a top priority, there is nothing I have to give. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So these are very different concepts. And the quality of your life is greatly dependent upon the conscious choices you make about people, activities, and environments you surround yourself with. So, you've probably heard the saying, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's not just the people. It's also the environments. It's also the activities. It's also the groups, the communities, the jobs. Everything matters. The food you eat, all of it, your home environment, everything. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. So crafting a lifestyle that nurtures rather than depletes your sensitivity is a holistic approach. A holistic approach. There are multiple dimensions to consider. And I'm going to show here a diagram that shows all of the different dimensions so that you can really tap in to everything that it looks like. And I want you to be clear that you cannot change all of this at once, and you shouldn't even try. You will get completely exhausted, frustrated. You won't get any traction. Change happens bit by bit, small daily choices. Sometimes we make a big leap, but those are rare, those are occasional, and we need time after those to rest and integrate and incorporate all of that into our lives. So when we're talking about making changes, we're talking about small incremental changes. So this is something I think is really important. I try to make sure that people know I'm not suggesting that you just change everything immediately because it would be too much to deal with. So let's talk about the various dimensions of being a sensitive lifestyle designer. Okay, so you can see here that there are all of these different dimensions. And perhaps there are even more. There might be some that are very particular to you that you would like to focus on. But at the very top, you see self-care, which is one of the most important aspects for HSPs and empaths. It's really important for everyone. And self-care is holistic, it's multidimensional. It is everything from the thoughts that we're thinking to the food that we put in our body, to the amount of sleep that we receive, the hydration, whether, how we move our body and we exercise and we keep it healthy and safe. It is the amount of time that we spend alone, just in our own energy. I could go on and on. Self-care is an entirely different workshop, but you get the idea that self-care is one of the most important dimensions. Where you live and what your physical environment is around you, not only your home and the things that you surround yourself with, the kind of spaces you have, how you decorate it and make it your own and feel really comfortable, but even the environment, the neighborhood, whether you have access to nature and you can go quickly, to be able to walk in nature. These things are really important for sensitive people. The family and friends that we surround ourselves with. And one of the things I talk about in my online community, Empath Leaders, is how to cultivate a really healthy, loving, and reciprocal inner circle. Those people with whom you can be most open and authentic and accepted unconditionally. So it's really important. Your spiritual practice, whatever that is for you. And, I am very spiritually open. Our community is very spiritually open. So we don't dictate any particular spiritual dogma. We believe that it is an individual thing. And it's also it's a very individual thing. And it's also just fine if you don't believe in spirituality at all. So I just want to make that clear that this is really about tapping into something much bigger than yourself, however you decide to define that. Your romantic partner or partners and how you decide to interact with that, the needs that you have in those kind of relationships. Some people want to live together. Some people prefer to live apart. Some people want to get married. Some people don't. Some people are monogamous. Some people are poly. Romantic partnerships are an entire segment unto themselves. But it's really important because this is a person who is probably one of the most close people to you, a best friend, a confidant, someone whom you can be completely open and vulnerable. And if you don't have that, it's okay as well. Some people don't want a romantic partner, but it is one possible dimension. Your physical well-being, if we don't have our health, if we don't have our wellness, it's really difficult to do anything else or to be present in the world. So that's something that's been a part of my journey as a person who lives with chronic illness, multiple chronic illnesses, and really focusing on my health, my well-being, which ties in very closely to your mental and emotional well-being, because all of those things are interconnected. The thoughts that I'm thinking inside my head, and I've done a lot of work on, addressing and identifying, wow, this thought is not helpful to me. This thought is an old pattern. I learned it from my parents. I learned it from society. I learned it from, multi-generational patterning. And I really want to think different things about myself, about the world, about other people. I want to look at things in a different way, and having an outlet to express your emotions, because sensitive people feel emotions much deeper and much wider than other people do. We have a part of our brain, the emotional center in our brain, that is more activated. They've actually done brain scans on this. So we have to have a place to do emotional release. It's okay to cry. It's okay to use artwork to express yourself, or dance, or talk it out with a therapist or a coach, or whatever that looks like for you. We need to have that outlet. When we stuff that down, it starts to impact the rest of our health and our well-being. There's your financial well-being, and I know that many empaths and HSPs, including myself, are not always happy with the economic system that we participate in. And some of us may try to disconnect from that. I've seen a lot of sensitive people go into intentional communities and trying out barter systems, and all of this is really great. It's really important to make sure that your basic needs are met. And those require some difficult choices. Sometimes I understand. I grew up in deep poverty. I've been, pretty well off, and everything in between. So financial well-being is one of the aspects that we need to pay attention to. The daily schedule, what are your rhythms? What are your natural rhythms? Maybe you are a morning person, and getting up at sunrise and taking a walk, or doing meditation or drumming is like, it energizes you. Maybe you're a person like me who likes to sleep in, and yet you do more of your work at night. And you feel really energized by that. So understanding what your natural rhythms are, knowing when you have the energy to really produce and to do things and to bring things out into the world, and when you need to rest. Some people like to take a nap, say every afternoon. And so how do you recreate your lifestyle, your career, so that it matches your daily schedule as much as possible? And then, of course, time for hobbies, because this is what gives life meaning, right? When we can just do things for the pure joy and pleasure of it. Oftentimes we're told in these societal messages that, doing things that are fun is laziness, or it's not important because it's something you're not getting paid for. But hobbies are amazing, whether you like to work with animals, or do photography like me, or you like to do rock climbing, or whatever your hobby is. You make things, you do ceramics, you create whatever it is. Hobbies are super important. So you can see that lifestyle design is multi-dimensional. And of course, each of these dimensions have their own sphere of multi-dimensionality. And so it becomes something which is not just, okay, I'm going to create this lifestyle and now I'm done. It really is a lifelong pursuit, because as you grow and evolve and change, your needs will also change. You will, what you like now is not the same thing as what you probably will need and like to do 20 years from now. So just being open to the idea that this is a constant evolution. There is no destination. There is only continuous alignment. So I want to take one of these dimensions, relationships, and really take a little deeper dive, right? Just so that you have some concrete examples of how lifestyle design looks in practicality, because theory is wonderful, but we need to bring it down to earth. We need to be able to implement some things. So when we talk about relationships, and I look at, how that has shown up for me in my life, with my family, my friends, my closest confidants, and my romantic partners that I've had over my life, for most of that time, I kind of fell into relationships. For example, someone would introduce me to a person, and then we started hanging out as friends. And many of these became friendships of convenience. Well, at least there's someone to talk to and do things with. I'm a very, very deep introvert. And so for a long time, I was had a lot of social anxiety. I was very nervous meeting other people. I didn't feel confident in who I was. And I think this is really common for many HSPs and empaths. And so, wow, here's a friend. I can actually kind of latch onto that. And at least I have someone to talk to and do things with. But if I look back, most of those friendships were unbalanced and unaligned. And I seemed to always be the person who was reaching out, making the effort, being an emotional support system for them, but that energy wasn't always reciprocated. And some of these friends actually took advantage of my kindness and lack of boundaries, right? I didn't have a lot of personal boundaries at the time. So I would give time, energy, and sometimes even money to them, but I did not receive those same kindnesses in return. And that would lead to deep resentment, anger within myself. And I really just felt like, wow, why are people not reciprocating with me? Why am I attracting these people? Well, what I came to was I really wasn't making conscious choices. I wasn't clear on who I am. And I wasn't clear on what I need in those friendships and what my boundaries were. So that's been a long process for me to really develop that clarity. And then I talk about the dating world, right? So I was married for a very long time, and then I divorced and went out into the dating world, and now I'm married again. But for example, when I was in the dating world, someone would ask me out because they liked me, they felt attracted to me. And I'm like, I'll give it a shot, sure. And then those would deepen into different relationships. And I tried so hard to make every one of those romantic relationships work without really pausing to consider what I wanted and what I needed in a romantic relationship, especially what type of commitment that I was looking for. So I had these romantic partners, and they liked hanging out with me. They liked having my time and my energy and attention and support, but they didn't want to be serious. They didn't ever want to take the relationship to the next level. So I had to let those go. And it was hard. I navigated several heartaches before I just decided, you know what, I'm going to take time off. I'm just going to be with me. And I even during that time had a ceremony with my family and friends. I actually married myself on Zoom. And my family and friends from all over the world, were on there. I bought a wedding dress. I had cupcakes. I even bought a ring for myself. And I affirmed that I am my life partner, right? And that I can be happy, fulfilled, and whole even when I'm walking the journey solo. And it was such an important time for me. It was so healing to not just take anyone because I didn't want to be alone, or because I was worried about a fear of abandonment, or I didn't know who I was, so I was just willing to take any kind of behavior. I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to know who I was. I wanted to know what I needed and what I wanted. So I sat down and made a list, not of my perfect partner, which is often the thing they tell you to do. I made a list of how I wanted to show up, what qualities and integrity I was willing to demonstrate, and what I bring to the relationship table. And a few months after marrying myself and doing all this inner work, my current husband showed up on Facebook. He reached out to me on Facebook, and I never talked to strange men on Facebook, but he felt safe and right. And we began talking, and then we began video chatting, and then we flew to meet each other because we lived 10 hours apart. And he is literally my soulmate in this lifetime. So it took a deep inner dive to understand what I value, what's important, how I want to show up, and really then to vibrate that out and attract the person who I wanted. And we have a loving, conscious relationship that honestly several years ago, I wouldn't even imagine would be possible, right? I went through so many romantic relationships and dating that were just toxic and not supportive at all. So maybe you understand this, maybe you feel this way, and I'm just trying to share some of my process so that you understand. Along the way of exploring what kind of relationships I needed, I had to make some difficult choices, and I had to release a number of relationships in my life that were not supportive, not aligned, not reciprocal. And this included family members, which is really, really hard. And if you're going through that, I feel you from the heart. I know that it's always there. Even if you make the choice, even if you know it's right, that feeling is always there in your heart. So I feel you, I hear you, and I am you. I also had to give up several, romantic partners and several longtime friends because we were moving on different paths. Sometimes we walk together with a particular person for a period of time, and then we grow apart, or we go in different directions, or one person's growing and evolving faster than the other person. And actually this is normal and natural, even though we feel like something's wrong, we feel like we've been a failure, we feel like we should be able to keep this going. And the letting go of this does hurt at the time and even later. But when you allow yourself to release anything that does not resonate, whether that's a home, a job, a relationship, whatever that is, a particular career field, you create spaciousness in your energy field, in your aura, and out in the collective energy field to receive that which is more aligned with what you need. And as I said before, making these changes to improve your lifestyle, to improve your career, to improve your relationships, it takes time. It does not happen all at once. And it involves a series of choices, one after the other, continuously working towards a more healthy balance. And some of these choices are simple and quick. You're going to be like, nope, not that. I'm going to get that out of my house. And it's done, right? You clear the energy. And others take time. They take healing work. They might take therapy. They might take a lot of inner shadow work for you to let go of people, places, and things you've become attached to. Someone or something that used to be supportive may not be anymore, or something that you thought you wanted may no longer fit. And it also requires releasing old patterns of guilt and unworthiness, right? As I said, I thought, oh, wow, if this romantic partnership or this friendship isn't working, it's my fault. I'm failing. I'm not doing the relationship thing well enough. Or my people picker is broken. I can't find the right kind of people. No, it's just there's no alignment there. And it involves stepping into a new mindset that choosing to make yourself a priority is essential as a sensitive person to live a fulfilled, healthy life, so that you can also be present and helpful and in service to others, which is what we want to do. But you cannot give from an empty tank. You cannot make a difference in the world if you're continuously struggling with a day-to-day existence that works against your sensitivity. This is so important. And crafting a sensitive, supportive lifestyle is not a destination. It is a lifelong process. And you approach it from a place of curiosity, discovery, discernment, and experimentation. You're like, what if I try this? Okay, no, that didn't work. What if I try this? And the way I look at it now is if I kind of throw that out there and I go, hey, what about this? And the door closes, I'm like, not for me. If I throw something else out there and the door starts to open, I'm like, cool, there's an invitation to go one step further. And I throw it out there again, maybe the door closes, like, no, not for me. But if I go over here and the door opens and it opens some more and it opens some more and it opens other doors, then this is the path, right? And so instead of feeling like a failure, instead of feeling like, no, I can't do relationships, I can't do this career, I can't do whatever, you say, this is not aligned, right? You just try something new and then you observe what happens. It's almost like being a scientist, right? I call it using my life as an intuitive laboratory. I had this intuition, like maybe I should call this person. Maybe I should look this up online. Maybe I should watch this video. Maybe I should read this book. And then there's a message for me and I follow the thread. And you ask really powerful questions and honest questions. Like this is where we're getting honest. Like, does this relationship, home, or career hold a dissonant or resonant vibration? Like when I'm here, do I feel drained, depleted, angry, frustrated, exhausted, sleepy? This is not for me. It's not matching your vibration. If you feel energized, excited to be there, alive, then you know it's resonant, right? It's resonant. Does it uplift you? Does it energize you? Or is it draining and depleting? Does it lead you to more growth and potential, or is it a dead end, right? The door closing. Nope, stone wall. It's not for me. It's a dead end. Does it bring new connections and opportunities into your life? So these are the questions you can begin to ask yourself as you're deciding to become a sensitive lifestyle designer. And so there's 3 things that I would love for you to remember about this masterclass and about beginning to step into putting yourself first, right? So number 1 is that being self-focused is not the same as selfish. And the quality of your life is dependent upon the conscious choices you make about people, activities, and environments you surround yourself with. Number 2, other people might not understand why you're making these new choices. You know, some people get really uncomfortable when other people change and evolve. And that's okay, because you're working on standing firm in your convictions, trusting your inner knowing. This is your life, and you get to decide what to make of it. No one else is living it. So they might have an opinion. Your parents might have an opinion. Your spouse might have an opinion. Your friends might have an opinion. But fundamentally speaking, you're the person living it. And how do you want to be doing that? And number 3, pace yourself. By all means, pace yourself. Crafting a lifestyle that nurtures your sensitivity takes time, months, or even years. So just choose one thing that's most draining right now, one thing, and shift that. Work on that. Improve that. Because that's going to make a huge difference in your life. And once you get that stable and you integrate and you're like, yes, okay. You know, whether it's like, I'm going to change the foods that I eat. Okay, work on that. Work on that for a few months. Work on that for 6 months. Work on that for a year. Develop it into a habit. Let your body get used to that. Really feel great. Start to feel the changes that are happening within your body. And then go, okay, what else is draining and depleting me now that I really have this under my belt? So this is exactly what I teach to empaths and HSPs and intuitives inside my community called Empath Leaders. And we are a global online community, and we are helping people just like you to live every day with greater peace, connection, self-trust, and purpose. We help you become a lifestyle designer. We help you do this process. Look at the things that you want to change. We have an enormous amount of resources to help you do that. So when you come inside of our community, you can connect with other empaths from 20 plus countries and across 6 continents. So we're truly global. It's really interesting. So many different cultures, so many different backgrounds, different ages, different genders. It's really an interesting place. And a lot of our members are, you know, spiritual practitioners, conscious entrepreneurs, sacred activists. We have a lot of artists, musicians, writers, actors, and storytellers. We have light workers and mystics, and people who are really emerging into their spiritual leadership. Right? Whether they're running their own business, they're writing books, they're out there teaching on YouTube, whatever that looks like. They are just amazing people. They're empath leaders, right? Empathic leaders. And we have amazing conversations in our online space. And we also offer weekly live workshops, you know, on different topics that are specifically related to lifestyle design, to improving your energy field, to enhancing your empathic and intuitive gifts, to improving your relationships. And we have discussion groups so that you can take a really deep dive with people who don't just do small talk, but get into the meat of the conversation. And we have hundreds of bite-sized videos and articles that you can access at your own pace. And they help you amplify your gifts. If there are aspects of your life that are no longer a fit, perhaps it's time to self-reflect and take action to make some small changes. Remember, there's always a different choice. Those choices aren't always easy, but there's always a different choice. And you have the power to craft a life that supports your sensitivity. I believe in you. You can do this.